style, sell with Sue. It's your move.
Hello, and welcome to No Place Like Home. That's my podcast, and I'm glad that you're here, my friend. I'm going to have a little bit of, I'm not going to have the drama. I'm going to share a little bit of drama, some quick tips, and what I love about home that you might too, or maybe you haven't thought of it about yet. And no matter where you live, let's start off with talking about a concept in real estate called the highest and best use. This is where you have a parcel of land and it will be zoned it will be given a certain zoning. So in most residential places, it's zoned, let's say, for a single family home. So if you have a single family living in that home, then that parcel is used at its highest and best use. But what you might notice sometimes in an older neighborhood or some where there's redevelopment going, you might have a parcel of land that is zoned for commercial or multifamily use, but it still has a single family home on it. Maybe it's rented out to tenants. So that property is not used to its highest and best use. Something to think about with your own home, and if you dare, take it to a life lesson. Well, here in Calgary, where I am based from, we have just had some new zoning. And so sometimes that zoning can change without your permission, by the way. And because of the increased demands for housing here, we have the city has changed citywide most of the zoning from what typically has been a R1, residential single family home zoning, to something they're calling a RG or RCG, which now means that on most residential properties, your zoning has been increased, not just to have one family there, but now you can have a secondary suite, such as in your basement. You could have a secondary suite like a carriage house, or even in your backyard. If you have room, you could have a modular home built or some kind of a suite back there. So this is a big change in Calgary, Alberta, and I have seen, I think, a lot of permits and development permits for basement suites. In fact, we ourselves have a house with a basement in it. Originally, we didn't even think about putting a door in the side, but now that the zoning has increased, we looked into it, and yes, we were able to put in a legal secondary suite. So now our home is at the highest and best use and the max capacity, and therefore, we get the best value out of our property. So something to think about, whether you like it or whether you don't. That's the way it is right now. Something kind of fun that changed actually a couple of years ago in 2022 in Calgary, we are now allowed to have chickens on your residential property. Did you know about that? Did you hear the rumors? Well, I looked it up, and indeed, the urban livestock licensing program enables Calgarians to keep backyard hens, and this is under the responsible pet owners bylaw. So there are a couple stipulations. If you've ever thought of hosting some chickens on your property and having some fresh eggs, listen, couple of things. Each hen keeper needs to complete an introductory urban hen keeping course. So you'll get your course certificate in urban hen keeping. And if you're going to do this, you must provide a site plan with the details of the coop and the attached run. The coop you can build up to 107 square feet, so that's about a 10 by 10 size. But if it's anything larger, you require a building permit for your chicken house. So how about that? Yeah, I haven't seen any chickens in my neighborhood, but maybe you have, or maybe you're thinking about it. And one other little thing that they kind of slipped in there, I didn't really hear much about it, but it came up on my real estate back end, is that the ban on foreign ownership of Canadian housing has been extended to 2027. So if there's, of course, there used to be a lot of foreign ownership and people buying from not being Canadian residents. This doesn't apply to permanent residents. But if you didn't know, yep, 2027. Okay, so quick tip for today. I have so many little quick tips. And, often when I'm showing clients around, we're chatting, these things come up that people find interesting. So I thought I'd put a quick tip in my podcast. And today I want to share what you can do if you or somebody else gets a burn in your house. And I'm reminded of when my grandson, Nathan, was like 1 or 2 years old, just walking, and he put his hand on the fireplace. And of course, immediately screamed out in pain and got a burn. So we call Auntie Lynn, who is the medical professional, the nurse in our family. I hope every family has someone they can call in a medical challenge and when they need to ask questions. And so she told us put vinegar on the burn. And almost immediately it relieves the pain. It takes away the sting. So if you didn't know that, mark it down. That's a really good tip to know when you're in the heat of the moment, no pun intended. And speaking about fire, if you do not have a fire extinguisher, I'm telling you right now, you need to go out and buy a fire extinguisher. It's something I always give my clients every year, my buyers, anyways. When you buy a house, I want you to keep it safe. So you get a fire extinguisher. And should something happen, you know that insurance company is going to ask you, do you have a fire extinguisher? And you better be able to say yes. So that's money in the bank for you. Now, did you know this? If you're a seller or a buyer, I'm going to give you an example because just last week I had some clients and we had a very interesting situation happen. They wanted to see two townhouse units in one complex. And we drove there quick as a wink, of course, because everything's going very quick nowadays. And we walked into this unit. Now, these were two almost identical units in the same complex. We walked into this unit, and the presentation was, 9 out of 10. They had the lights on when we came in, and it was welcoming. It was warm. The temperature was warm. The lighting was warm. I'm sure the sellers were living in it, but I'll tell you, they had some pretty nice stuff. So if it wasn't professionally staged, they certainly did have some nice things. Maybe a stager enhanced their own home products, but it just looked, everything was in its place. The furnishings all matched. It was warm, inviting. It was clean. And of course, my buyer fell in love with it right away, and I agreed with her. Then we walked over to the other unit. And again, I'm telling you, totally identical units. And we walked up into this place and no lights were on. Now listen, if I get there before my buyers and it's the first place we're showing, I will run in and turn all the lights on. But of course, in this case, we didn't have the opportunity. And so that would have been up to the sellers to help us out. But the lights were all off. And when we came in, it was cool. It was not warm temperature wise. The lighting was all cool. So now with LEDs, you can get cool or warm light bulbs. And when they are cool, it makes you feel cold. And it had a bit of a smell. I I'm not sure if it was a little bit of cat pee or a little bit of smoke. I don't know. Maybe a little bit of musty or hasn't been aired out for a while, but just a little bit of an unpleasant smell. And as we walked through, you just have a feeling like you want to protect yourself. Maybe it had been tenant occupied, maybe they had done the best they could, but it was very sparsely furnished. It did not show well. And the problem is, it doesn't show well to the buyers. And so my buyer, in fact, she didn't even really finish seeing the whole thing. She was like, no, no, I don't like this one. And so, really, the poor presentation of the second unit helped sell the first unit, the other one that was available in the complex. That unit sold in multiple offers that evening over the list price. And it just goes to show, even though things have been selling quick, really since the pandemic, they can still be selling very quickly. As a seller, let me assure you that presentation counts. And if you want to get the highest value and the highest and best price out of your unit. Do everything that you can to just really make it attractive and appealing and warm, because that will make a difference. And to note, if you are a buyer, listen, if you are willing to learn, if you're interested in doing a little bit of work to put equity into a place, you could use the price that you'll save on getting a less desirable unit. But honestly, you could change all of the lighting to be like the first unit. You could freshen it up. You could clean it up. It could use a fresh paint job, and you could put your own work into it to make it as lovely and warm as you want to. But not everybody has the time or wants to do that. And so, if you're interested, of course, I have a lot of resources, great people who do these kinds of things here in Calgary. So, if you're thinking about it, reach out anytime, ask me questions. I'm happy to pass along resources. And then I also want to talk, as I wrap up this podcast, about something that I love. And I'm going to ask you to think about something that you love in your house or your past houses. This thing I'm going to share today is about the last home that we owned. And I want to share it because it was something unexpected, because I had never had it in a house before. But in our last home, we lived on a somewhat of a main street. It wasn't too busy, had traffic at different times. We lived across the street from a school. And some benefits we found, in fact, we like them so much, we've always said, whatever houses we buy, we want them to be across from a school or a school zone or a park, because you have so much extra parking. So when our family comes over, we've got 7 kids together, 7 grandkids. We need some parking. So whenever people come over, there's always been lots of parking, and we always have a playground because there's a school across the street. But the real benefit is that being a sort of a main street on a bus route, our road was always cleared on a priority clearing with the city. And here in Alberta, we have snow. We could have it 6 months out of the year. So having those snow plows clear our street was such a benefit to us, something that we really appreciated. And listen, that insight, I'm going to give it to you on the house. What do you really love about your home? I will appreciate if you message me, put it in the comments, tell me. I want to know. And I also, before I go, want to give a shout out today to a wonderful marketing and design company called kpdesigns.ca. That's Kathy Pauls, and she just helped me. If you're watching this and you found the thumbnail and the graphics that we have, she did that for me. And she's also done the brand of my logo. If you go to my website, suestyles.com, she did a lot of the graphic work for that. And she is so intuitive. And she also has that nice mix of being an absolute expert. Honestly, when she puts something together, she's quick, she's on it, and I love it. I have always been so pleased, and I'm not getting paid for this recommendation. So, this is a genuine endorsement. I just think her and her husband run a great business. So that's kpdesign.ca if you're looking for something like that. And if you're looking for your own happily ever after, let me put you in your place once and for all. You can email me, sue@suestyles.com. See you next time.